Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our August 13th Zoom board meeting, which will be the last board meeting of the current board. Wayne is taking a few days off for a well-earned rest up until the election next week, so I will be chairing the meeting today. Thankfully, the COVID-19 numbers seem finally to be in decline, although yesterday's number of deaths is still of great concern to all. While Jason will be addressing certain aspects of our current emergency rules in his remarks, everything will still be staying generally as we've stated in the past, and will stay that way until local government and medical expertise advises us that we can relax the rules further. 4 of our board members are present, so we have a quorum. We all have a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Any corrections? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are passed. Sarah, you want to give the treasurer's report, please?
Okay, will do. Hi, everyone. We have currently July 31st numbers, $152,651 in operating cash money, $1,005,000 in reserves, $11,000 due from the homeowners, and $82,000 prepaid. These are not final numbers. I haven't gotten the July statements. I would like to make a motion, however, to approve the June financials for posting as soon as I get the final package for June. I've already submitted journal entries and we should be getting the financial statements next week. So I'd like to be able to post them as soon as they come in. I would like to make that motion, please.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Also,
all in favor?
Sorry.
In favor?
Okay. I also would like to make a motion to approve phase 2 of the paving contract that was $66,000, and that was to pave around the clubhouse, bringing the total paving cost and quality control to $273,651.45 for those of you who want to count the pennies. They are coming out of our reserve account, so won't have an effect on our dues. This is primarily charged, the paving costs are primarily charged against our infrastructure or settlement funds, with the exception of $31,000 that was charged against our paving neighborhoods reserve account. And that's all.
Can I ask why we have to approve this since we approved the contract?
Only approves phase 1, Ron, that was $204,000.
Okay, understood.
So we didn't approve phase 2.
Okay.
So just to bring us up to date, and you'll see that reflected in the July statements.
Thank you.
So motion made.
In which case, I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can you raise your hand so everybody can see that we're approving it? Thank you.
There it is.
And I did run that by Wayne, so he's in favor of both motions.
Okay.
Manager's report. One of the things that you alluded to, Ron, was the fact that the community as a whole has done a really good job of I hate the term abide, but as far as what guidelines the board has set forth to allow, to allow us to open up the clubhouse and use the facilities, it continues to be utilized in a way that has been safe, and people have done their part to make sure that we can continue to keep it open and not have any issues and cause more spread of the virus. So one of the things we're looking at, given the fact that we just had a treasurer's report, we're talking about money, and one of the things that we can do to minimize costs that COVID has brought to us as far as staffing and having more staff than we need. One of the areas we're looking at, one of the changes that most people will see coming up, is we're going to back off on some of the staffing that we have at the desk We're going to put some bottles out in the pool area and in the different areas so that people can kind of clean up before and after they use areas, just like most of the facilities in the Hillsborough County area that we've seen. And if people want to use the pool and the fact that you know, they've been able to social distance and keep things fairly safe, we put some bottles on the table and allow people to spray down themselves. We're still going to ask people to check in, and we're going to keep an eye on the numbers so that people are safe while they're out there. And we're going to continue to monitor and to make sure that people aren't overstepping bounds as far as being too close to others that are trying to enjoy the pool without having to tell someone to push away from them a little bit. But we're between the gym and the facilities in the pool area and in the clubhouse, we're going to kind of start transitioning more towards where the residents take care of themselves and the staff is there to assist them with that, as opposed to the staff taking care of and cleaning, so that we can cut back on some of the payroll that has increased due to the virus. We've also are looking at the fact that the ballroom may be a better option for some of these small groups that gather. So the board is considering and we had talked somewhat about allowing small groups to utilize the ballroom area when it's not being used for a club or excuse me, a committee or board function. So something that we're looking at doing, and it has not been approved, and the board can obviously discuss it and decide, was the utilization of the ballroom in place of places like the library, so people can spread out a little better and maybe have smaller groups in there for a short period of time. Or for a period of time. Again, still not reserving places for people, but allowing groups who come in who want to sit and have a conversation and get out of their house for a little bit, as long as they continue to clean up before and after themselves and utilize it in a safe way. We're looking at options for allowing that, and that's for the board to discuss and decide. But we as a staff and as the management group are planning and trying to get ourselves in a position to where we can handle and take care of that for you guys once the board decides that. So I don't get to make that decision, just to be clear. That's not my decision, but I do prepare the staff so that once that decision is made, we can handle it and manage it. And we're at that point where we can manage it. So that's up to the board. And I know that's something the residents truly want. However, we're trying to make sure that we keep everyone safe and don't create opportunities to spread the virus. But we just want to be in a position to where we can help where we can. As far as the ponds, we are nearing the end of Pond 8. One of the conversations that's been had and talking to the pond committee, the board of directors, the vendors, Solitude, Lake Management Company, everybody who's involved in this, we are going to go to Solitude as well as our attorneys and some of the other people to see what we can do as far as with Swift Mud, the Southwest Water Management District. We're going to talk to them and see if there's some way that we can get some relief and get some water into the pond, because we do have limits as to how much water we can pump in. I get several emails on a regular basis, and I promise you I'm not ignoring them. We just can't pump water into that lake at a rate that we want. We just can't keep pumping in there. So we have to manage the amount of water that we pump in. We are going to do what we can to get with Swift Mud and with the local authorities to see if we can get some relief and get more water into that pond. We're not getting as much rain as we would like, because the rain really keeps the pond full. Then we usually supplement it with pumping water in. Right now, we're basically having to pump water in to keep it at the level we want. So Ron Wallace and I sat down yesterday and we talked about it, and we're trying to find out what avenues and what options we have to increase the amount of water in that pond. So if anybody that is watching or that watches this later has a question about the level of the pond, please understand that we can't just turn the valve on. We can, but there are heavy fines and things that come along with doing that. So we can't just go flip it on and say we're filling our pond back up. We are, however, aware of it, and we are going to do whatever we can to get more water in there. As the ponds settle from the work that we've done. Because Pond 7 is also in a situation where we need more water in there. Swift Mud basically said, no, you can't add a weir to increase the amount of water. That was the simple short answer that they gave us. We don't know at this point if COVID is the reason that they're not meeting or not having longer discussions. However, we don't have a better answer from them yet. So we're, given that fact, we're going to see what avenues we have. That's a long way of saying we don't know. But we are going to continue to push and continue to talk to local authorities and see if there's something we can do. The pond committee has been working their tails off to try to get these ponds in good shape with our pond vendor, with the vendor that's doing the work there, with management, with the amount of water that we have access to. There's a lot of work going on, and those people are working very hard. I see the emails. I know that people are upset about the way they look right now, but I can tell you that the work is not complete, and it's kind of one of those, their hands are tied, our hands are tied, but we're working on ways to get them untied, and we're just going to keep pressing through. And when we're done with all of this work, those ponds will be back to where they're supposed to be. That's basically all I can say, as far as we're not there yet, but we're going to get there. That's all I got.
Okay.
Hey, Ron, could I say something before we start the next
Go ahead.
topic? Ron?
Yes, go ahead.
Wayne asked me to say this so that everybody understands. Wayne's asked me to share with you that he's taking some time off to get some much needed rest after an unexpected hospitalization this week. He's dealing with some ongoing coronary issues, none of which are virus related, and we expect him to be back to full strength and ready to go again in just a few days. I can tell you that he's home, he's doing well, but he needs the rest, so we'll leave him alone for a few days. We wish him a speedy recovery. Thanks, Ron.
A pleasure. Jason, you want to talk about the annual fire hydrant inspections?
Sure. Something that we do every year, regardless, and in the board in your packet, you have 3 estimates from vendors who provide inspections. And basically what they do is on the multifamily side, the county does not run those fire hydrants. On the single family side, they do. So they come and inspect those annually on their own. The multifamily side is owned by the association and you, the people. So those inspections are not required. However, they are highly recommended. It's, to have a fire hydrant out there and not test it once a year is not a good idea. So what I provided in your packet was 3 options. We currently use Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls is a great company. There's also Wayne Fire Suppression Systems. I think that's the other one. They're another good one. They're another great company, local company, been in the area forever. So I provided you with a few options there. What I'm looking for is to add that as a contract, so it just annually gets inspected, as opposed to pulling from operating funds and repair funds. If we add it as a contract, then it becomes a specific contract. And when we do the budget, we can add it as a budget line. So it's something that just happens annually. It gets taken care of. It's not something that we need to get approved every time. It's something that needs to happen anyway. So I'm just wanting to get a contract signed with one of those vendors. There's several, I think there was 3 total options that were put in there. I'd like you guys to take a look at those and hopefully make a decision. Either no, we're just going to continue as an operating fund, or yes, and choose one of those vendors. I really like Wayne, and I really like Johnson Controls, only because of if you want to have concerns about whether or not a company will be here next year, Johnson Controls, anybody who's been in the industry, any type of industrial work knows Johnson Controls. They've been around forever. They're a huge company. I worked with them as far west as California. I know some friends that work for them up in Boston. They're a huge company. They've been around for a long time. Wayne, locally, I've used them as well. I did some commercial work downtown, building some multifamily units down in the downtown Tampa area. We used Wayne. They're another good company. They're going to be around for a long time, and you can trust them. The other company that I gave you is a local company, and I don't want to talk negatively about them. I just don't know them enough to give a recommendation on them. I know them well enough that they've been in the area for a while. I just haven't personally used them. So that's my input on it. I hope you guys will take a look at that and possibly make a decision as far as using this as an annual inspection. It's been done this year. So the nice thing is if we sign that contract, it's something that can go into the budget for next year, as opposed to having that expense again this year. So this is an option for us while the budget meetings are beginning. It's so that Sarah and the finance committee can add this to the budget for next year, and it becomes something that we do on a regular basis.
Sounds reasonable.
I like Wayne because it's of course less expensive, but the other side I'd like to get with Johnson Controls because we're already doing business with them in other areas, and see if we could negotiate maybe a little better deal from Johnson before we make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, because Johnson is 50% more expensive than
It's not that much.
Than Florida Fire Service, and 20% more expensive than Wayne. Can we get them down?
I can talk to them and see if they're willing to try. And that's, Johnson Control, like I said, it's a corporation, so I don't know what they'll be willing to do, but I certainly can call them. It would be nice, as Sarah said, we use them for other services here, and they were the better price when we researched and used them for those services. And also the fact that their technology and their corporation is very, it's a quality company that you can count on. So it's nice to use them for that reason. So I'll reach out to them again and see if we can't get a little better price from them, because it would be nice to maintain all of our fire suppression systems throughout the community by the same company, so they can come out once and do an inspection of everything.
Yeah, why don't you go to them and see if we can get the price improved?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
there are obvious reasons why it would be good to go with them, but the price differentials are pretty significant.
Sure, and the good thing is right now, this is, like I said, this is mostly about getting something into the budget for next year. If you guys are willing to go into an agreement with one of these vendors, the main thing is just getting this into the budget for next year so that it has a budget line item that we can bill it to.
Makes sense to me.
Yep. It's too easy for something that important to hang out there and get forgotten for a year. Once we institutionalize it, it never gets forgotten. It gets done.
Absolutely. Good point, because I can tell you there was a period when we looked at the inspections, there was a 2-year period that went by that they did not get inspected, and that's what we want to avoid.
Yep.
Okay. You want to talk about the sports surface?
I don't want to, but
bocce courts
on the agenda. No. So I met with the same company that did the resurfacing of the courts back at the tennis and the other, what's the other one called? Pickleball. Sorry. Those courts. He came out and looked at them. We've had some ongoing discussions about the sports courts and especially the bocce. I know the bocce group is very anxious to get those bocce courts in a better situation. Up until I met with Sports Surfaces out there, and I had met with other vendors, and most of them said, "Nah, you don't need to do anything. Just get these cleaned up. We can do some work with the underlayment on them." Sports Surfaces was the first ones to walk out there and show me specifically what's going on with the courts, why, and what we would need to do to fix them. And unfortunately, there was 2 answers to it. One, they can be played on the way they are. That's a simple, yeah, they can be played on the way they are. However, to be properly fit and to be working, to be utilized properly, the surfaces should be replaced in the near future. And I say in the near future as in it's something that should be looked at and started budgeting for, and make sure that we have a plan and take care of it, because the expense of it is fairly high. Unfortunately, it is something that was done, from what I understand, it was done in the near past, but that type of surface is something that's going to have to be replaced on a fairly regularly basis. And when I say fairly regularly, that the period is somewhere around 10 years, 8 to 10 years on the replacement. But I did meet with them. They did show me where the edges are shrinking, and it's, you know, when you have sun, rain, and all that occurring, it's like if you left a t-shirt outside on the ground and it gets wet and then the sun hits it and it dries up, that expanding and contracting causes it to pull away from the edges. But it's contracted to a point to where you can no longer stretch it and get it back underneath the edges. So there are some good arguments for replacing those mats. However, as far as where we're at with budget wise for this year, I think it's, you know, it's obviously something that we could push off to the beginning of next year, but it's something that definitely needs to be looked at, taken care of. I only have one estimate currently there, and anybody who's part of the bocce group will say, well, there was another estimate given. There was, and it is a good estimate. However, it will need to be renewed as well. I'll need to go back to them and get that price renewed, because, you know, just the way everything else has gone in the state and across the country, prices that were here 12 months ago are no longer the same. And I think people understand why. So that is something that, based on conversations I've had, if this is something, you know, and as far as the board, if you would like me to, I will go out and pursue other estimates and provide you guys with a normal estimate packet so you can take a look at different options for pricing, if that's something you want me to do.
Jason, the place where Lynn and I used to live over in St. Pete, we had bocce courts and had the same situation, the same problem. We bought tarps and had the courts covered whenever they weren't in use.
Right.
And it was relatively easy, even after a rain, to just peel the tarps back and the water goes with it. The people that we dealt with over there, I think it was something to do with Welsh tennis. It wasn't Welsh, but it was somebody that was related to him. And they said that probably doubled the life expectancy.
Right.
I don't know if it's worth looking into that, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Sure, and that's
good. Sorry, you're suggesting that as an alternative or as an addition?
Well, it depends on how bad the courts are right now. I haven't looked at them, but if they've already been deteriorated, the tarps won't really help. Once the deterioration starts, it continues. But if we get new material in there, then it seems to me we should spend a few extra dollars and protect it as much as we can.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I can do is whenever I can call Sport Services back and ask them to, because there's a few options out there with that as well. There's now those like sunbrellas, sunscreens that can stretch over. There's a lot of options for that. And maybe we look at several options for that as well, because the expense, as John stated, if we protect these, they're going to last a lot longer, and a little bit more expense now if we plan for it and maybe say, you know, we're going to do this after the first of the year and we plan for that. We have a little higher expense now. We may, you know, if we added 3 years onto the life, the amount of times you would replace it over the term, that money would come back to you. You know, so if we add 3 years, that's one less over. You know, you're doing it 3 times instead of 4, and that cost alone may be worth looking at doing so that you preserve those, and also makes it a little bit more enjoyable for the guys playing bocce out there. So there may be some options for that to look into, either a tarp that goes over them or some covering overhead that's not a permanent structure, more of that stretched fabric that goes across. And that's something we had talked about it just in conversation, and maybe it's something we look deeper into.
Well, let's get some estimates in so that we can you know, take care of it next year with a bit of luck.
Okay, as long as you guys are willing, you know, I just didn't want to, once we got that answer, I wanted to bring it back into the conversation so that everyone was aware that it wasn't something being let go. It was just something that, you know, with everything that was going on, it kind of got pushed to the side for the fact that it was not as important as some of the other issues we were dealing with, but it was important, and we have been working on it in the background.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything on that?
Nope.
All right, we have a couple of committee things to confirm. Joe Leahy, as many of you probably know, resigned as the ARC chairman recently, and it has been proposed that we appoint Douglas Dick, whose name on the screen calls himself Duke Doug, so he must have been knighted by the Queen or something. But we'd like to put a motion forward that we appoint Douglas Dick as the new chairman of the art committee.
Second.
If I may, for those who don't know Doug, he's a neighbor of mine, a very conscientious gentleman, and has taken his duties on the art committee extremely seriously in the time that he's been on there. I think he's an excellent choice for chairman.
Okay, well, I've made a motion. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I've unmuted Doug if you wanted to say anything quick.
I just want to say thank you for your support and confidence in myself and the committee members. I commit to you that we will continue the work that Joe has done, the improvements to the that we have made, the interaction with our residents, and we'll continue to support your decisions. And look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Okay, then we have to approve 3 new members of the Covenants Committee. They are Larry Maverick, Laurie Winkleman as an alternate, Linda Seiss, and Regina Steppard. I don't know, do we need to actually vote on that, Jason, or?
Yeah, you do, just because you.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Larry Maverick, Linda Seiss, and Regina Steppard as regular members of the Covenants Committee, and Laurie Winkleman as an alternate.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. You talked about the ballroom use, Jason. Do you want to say? Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I just want to, if you guys are okay with it, I think it's something that, in lieu of the conversations we've had about the library, on a limited basis, if you guys are and on a as approved by the board basis, smaller groups utilizing the ballroom for the same things that they do throughout the common areas and throughout this clubhouse. And again, that's up to you guys to decide, but if you guys are okay with it, and somebody has a specific use and a specific reason for using it, I would just like the approval to allow them to go in there and we would monitor it the same way we do anything else throughout the clubhouse. But again, that's for you guys to decide. And if you're okay with it, we would start utilizing the ballroom a little more for social functions, as long as they're, small groups, maybe 15 and less, and as long as they social distance and utilize the facilities and clean them before and after they use them.
I so move.
Any other opinions?
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that just a little bit. I don't think it's a bad idea to allow small groups to use the ballroom, but I think it's got to be on the same basis that we did with Sammy and the poker people. I think it's got to be, they have to recognize what their responsibilities are in terms of social distancing, masks, and sanitation. And we also have to have somebody just walk through the ballroom every once in a while just to make sure that it's good. And it's not that I don't trust anybody, it's that I don't want to give the signal that things are better. I mean, people are hanging on anything they can these days, myself included, that makes it look like, wow, we're out of this. And it really bothers me to signal people that things are better and we can start opening things up. That's not the case at all. What we're thinking about is using the ballroom in a very limited way that it probably could have been used all along. It's not something that's opening up because the virus is less virulent now. It's more, if anything. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not a relaxation. It's just a recommendation that using the biggest room in our community is reasonable.
I would hope too that, I understand living in a community like this and having managed it and knowing many of the people in here, having access to something like that just to get, and it's not getting life back to normal, because I think we're a long way from being back to normal. Right. However, the fact that people have been contained for so long and you have this area here that could be utilized as long as it's done in a safe way, and give some people some options to their lifestyle so that they're not so that, the mind can wander a little bit as opposed to being locked up in your same home. I think with our staff here and with the residents that are in this community, to be able to utilize something like this in a safe way, and as long as people will listen to our staff when they are enforcing something that the board or the covenants require us to enforce, and understand that we're doing it in a way, or we're doing it to keep people safe and to maintain some sort of order to the facilities, I think it's a great option for people to be able to access and at least expand their their library of things to do a little bit. So I appreciate you guys allowing us to manage that, because I think it's something that I think it'll be a good thing for the community right now.
Well, with the understanding that all of our social distancing and COVID-19 rules apply, including the size of the gathering and the pre-approval of the gathering, I second the motion.
And also that there's no permanent time aspect to this. It's on an as available basis only. So under those understandings, then I agree that it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
Maggie?
When checking the last status, I found that of the 71,529,715 test cases, 6,390,904 were positive, or 9%. So we're still in trouble with COVID. And I think that's something that we need to understand. I have a picture of the last trend, and I would like for you to look at it.
Yep.
This is backwards. What's on the right side is where things started, and what's on the left side in your picture is where we are. It's much, much higher ever than it was when we started and we closed everything. And just so that you know, when I attend some of the meetings with Castle's owner and their lawyers, and the other communities attend, that a lot of them have closed back when the trend started back up, all the amenities. So I'm not against this as long as it's well managed, but I still have a concern. I don't have to be there, so that's okay.
Yeah,
I think we all have concerns. I think we all agree with your comment there, Maggie. But we've agreed that we will allow people on a very, very limited basis, on an as available basis, to use the clubhouse, and it seems to make sense to use a larger room. The benefits of using the larger room is that they can space themselves out more. So there's definitely advantages in doing that as compared to doing it in the library.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that as I said before, it probably should have been something we thought about right from the beginning. The same as the regulation we issued last week about allowing real estate people in to show the property. This is a learning curve for all of us, and as long as everybody behaves themselves and understands what the consequences are, I think opening it up to groups of 10 or below with all the other restrictions is a very reasonable thing to do. I'd also add, I know I've heard a couple of people talk about the temporary walls that we purchased a while back.
right.
I would highly recommend against using those.
Right.
I think Jason, you or one of your people should be sticking their head into the ballroom every once in a while. And if those things are up, they can't do that.
Right.
So let's just open the door, look in, go, yep, everybody's fine, and we're good. It wastes very little time on your part and your staff, and gives us the information we need.
Well, the good thing is Corey's office is back there, and he's in and out of there constantly. So if somebody's using it, and I firmly believe that just for the fact of keeping people safe is one group at a time. We're not, even though it's a huge room, and I understand that, but having more than one group in there at a time could cause some issues. So like you said, 10 or 15 people, and you guys can decide on a number, and as large as that room is, it may seem like, oh, we could have 50, but I think keeping it smaller groups and utilizing it for functions that are, like the same as the library, but only one group at a time. And that's, having Corey in there, he can pop in and out. Like you said, John, he's in and out of that office all day long. He'll be able to look at it, and I'm always going down to visit with him. It's not something that we would have to add time to go and take a look at. We're in and out of there as it is anyway. So I think utilizing it in that way, it's not a challenge for us to make sure that it's that people are following the guidelines.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Sounds
The next item is music club application. It seems to me that we could deal with that on a very similar basis. If to use the ballroom, if they want to use the ballroom to play music, if they're, well spaced apart and with no commitment to time, in other words, on an as available basis, it seems to me that that would fit into what we've just discussed. Is that reasonable?
I think so. And if you guys don't mind, if you would make a motion to approve them as a club so that they would be an actual club to the association, and their application is part of your packet. I talked to Dan about this, and so has Corey. And the reality is they want to be a club, and they want to invite other members of the community that like to play instruments to come be part of their club. And it's something that he's excited about and has been asking to do. So whenever he put this application forward, he and I talked about what it would entail as far as becoming a club. And I just wanted to, ensure that his reasoning for doing it was not thinking he would gain more access. However, his point of becoming a club was to invite more people in the community and make it a part of the community, as opposed to, having, the access to the building. It's a good club, and his ideas for expanding that club were right in line with what you guys had talked about the new clubs having. So if you guys don't mind, if you would take a vote as a board to approve them as a club, it'd be great.
I respect Dan. I'm sure he's going to do the right thing, and I would agree with that.
The only concern I would have is that whenever they are using the clubhouse, other groups that may be there may not want the sound, especially if interferes with whatever they're doing.
Well, the good thing is in that portion, and what we had just talked about is if they get here, and we had said in the beginning that we wouldn't reserve that area for somebody on a specific day and time or on a long term. They could, maybe for Thursday this week, but each time they would have to renew that. We would make sure that there was no other clubs at the same time given access so that it wouldn't interfere with each other. So it would be, it would be the either or and not at the same time.
Right, because if they come in to find out they cannot do it, you're asking them to bring instruments on and off and on and off.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, then that's okay.
Yeah, and I think we would have to, given a club like that, if it was a club, just like we do with a committee or anybody else, as I said, if Dan and that club wanted to meet on Thursday, we would allow them that Thursday. But like we did with the group that is sewing or painting, we'll let you book for that week, but not ongoing, just because the board has to make adjustments to their schedule and make new meetings. So we haven't allowed anybody else to book. I think it would be the same thing for them. If they want it this Thursday, fantastic. We stay in contact with that club to say, hey, the board has changed. They want to have a meeting or whatever, if we've got to adjust them. But just for that communication piece, Corey would be able to communicate with them and make sure that what they're doing doesn't interfere with anything else and nobody else is interfering with them.
I so move we allow the musician club.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Before we open up for questions, anybody got anything else they want to bring up?
No.
Maggie?
Yes. We need more volunteers to count votes. And what did I write that down? Anyone interested, and I see Sherry Schumacher is on with us, so I would also ask her to please extend the invitation or the request to the, what do we call them? The group that volunteers during the parties.
Helping Hand.
What again?
Helping Hands.
Helping Hands.
Helping Hands. If you can extend the request to the Helping Hands and to call Carol Templeton at 813-645-4619, or send her an email at malreg1@aol.com, or go to the office. I'm trying to keep people from having to go to the office. Go to the office and sign the list of volunteers for vote counting. This needs to happen before the end of this week, since we have the election next week. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, do we have some questions?
The cancer walk, there was a conversation that we didn't, that came in late. They're wanting to have that breast cancer walk in the community. Let me get Brooke. So I don't know if what were we wanted, what was asked of?
On October 3rd.
October 3rd, they want to do a breast cancer walk in the community.
And they're going to try to social distance and have multiple points to start at, so there's less people.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not, and we can bring that up at the meeting next week as well. They're looking to do on October 3rd, I believe, a breast cancer walk in the community. They're working on social distancing guidelines for it, and we as the management company are willing, as we have done in years past, provide the water for the walk. So that's something that we'll put on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss and get the approval of the board to allow that to happen. So we've got a little bit of time on it.
I think though that you need to make it very clear to them that this social distancing aspect of this has got to be very strictly managed. You know, the evidence is such that if you look at people walking around in groups of 2 or 3 and not social distancing in the community, the bikers often are not social distancing when they're riding around. So it's very hard to do. We're all used to gathering. We're a gathering group of people. But right now we can't do that. And if they're going to do this, they need to be very, very, very strict about it. Otherwise, it's just not going to fly.
Okay. We will have that discussion. And that's something that has been an ongoing discussion that came up. And that was the most, the biggest part of the discussion, was making sure that they were able to social distance during it.
Do we have any questions from the floor?
I don't see any hands raised. Of course, this is my first time running one, so that I'm. Okay.
All right. Well, if there are no hands raised, well, there's one. Dory wants to ask it. Dory, you want to ask a question? Nod your head if you do. Okay. Yeah. Why don't you unmute Dory?
I am. He's got it there. Oh, there you go. Unmute.
You have to unmute yourself, Dory, as well. There you go.
My question is there something wrong with the waterfall getting into our community?
Yes. Currently, this past weekend, there was a relay that is tripping due to temperature, heat. So that relay has been ordered as soon as it comes in, and that waterfall, I don't know if it's just a matter of the current age of it. It's just at a point where things have to be rebuilt. I know a lot of people are associating the same issue with the reason it keeps getting shut off, but I can assure you that it's not, that each piece, as we replace something else breaks. It's not the same thing happening over and over. Little relays, the pump, it was this. So that waterfall, I think it's just at that age where it's time, we could probably have tore it down and rebuilt the whole thing. But one piece breaks, we fix it, another piece breaks. So we ordered that relay. As soon as the relay comes in, we'll put it in there, and then it'll start working again. And then hopefully that's the end. And we just continue to have a pretty waterfall. But I can promise you, and I know the emails come, and most of you don't see the emails. So it's not as funny to you, and it's not funny to anyone. It's just reading them. I understand that people are frustrated. However, it is not the same problem that we did not fix. It is a continued chain of different issues that cause it to shut down. The biggest thing is making sure we don't burn up the pumps. So each time there's a problem, we shut it down so it doesn't keep running and burn up other issues, even though they keep happening anyway.
I think that this is an appropriate subject to bring up the question of this community as a whole and its age. And what we're noticing, that this community is aging. And things like this are going to happen on a far more regular basis than they have in the past, because things just break down when they get to a certain point in time. And we're seeing it from a budgetary standpoint and from all sorts of other positions, that we're just having to spend more money to keep this place afloat and to maintain it at the level that everybody wants it maintained at. And this is going to have to be recognized by everybody, because I'm sure you can deduce that it's going to hit you in your pocketbook at some point in time if we're going to be able to keep this community at the same level as it is today. Just a pure fact of life, and there's not much that we or anybody else can do about it.
Have Richard Smith. Rich Smith has a question. Sherry, I saw you raise your hand, but if you click on the raise your hand button, I'll put you in the queue to ask next. It should be bottom, I think bottom right.
Under participants. If you click on participants.
All right. I'm going to unmute Rich Smith, and he has a question. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
I got it right then. I just have a question for the board. If the board would consider holding some of our future meetings, if we're going to stay with the Zoom process, in the evening hours to accommodate the residents who may be full-time working, or they have other commitments in the daytime. Now, in the past, we always had board workshops in the morning, but our general meetings have always been in the evening hours. And I don't see how it would be a problem to schedule one at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. Thank you.
A reasonable request. Generally speaking, this was originally supposed to be a workshop, but for technical reasons, we needed to vote on certain things, and so we changed it. That's really the main reason why. But your point is well taken, Rich, and that's going to be up to the next board to make that decision for the next board meeting.
Sherry Schumacher, I hit ask to unmute, so you just got to unmute yourself now.
Hi there. I'm here representing Mitch Best, who is the lead for the breast cancer walk that's being planned. So just providing some details for the board related to what the team is planning. We have a meeting this afternoon to get to some more details. Just offhand, last year you may remember that we all met at the clubhouse. There are approximately 80 of us that did the walk. What we're planning this year is having starting points at different points within the community, the clubhouse, the gazebo, the loop, different places like that. So what that will do is essentially break up that large group into smaller groups. And then it also gives us the ability to social distance with a smaller group. We can use both sides of the sidewalk on any particular route to continue to social distance. And so what this will do will allow us to raise the money for breast cancer research, similar to what we did last year. So I just wanted to answer that question related to how do we do this and how do we do it safely. So that's one component that we're looking at. And we're hoping to actually get this buttoned up today with your approval, because our goal is to meet the August 15th due date to get this into the scoop for September, because the walk is on October 3rd. So letting our residents know how we plan to continue to raise money for breast cancer research, as well as providing a safe way in which to do that. So that's one component. I have others, but what questions do you have related to the walk from the board?
Well, you need to present something to us as to exactly how you're going to do it, and then we can vote on it, or the next board can vote on it at the next board meeting. But it's not going to happen in any other way unless you can get us something in detail.
Okay.
Also,
I guess
Sherry, will they be wearing masks?
yes. What we're going to be providing is like a little, last year we provided a t-shirt. This year we're providing a little gift bag, if you will. And in one of those one of the items in the gift bag is the pink mask. Now we've been meeting with Corey to talk about this. You know, I guess what I'm asking is we've got 2 days to make our due date to get this into the scoop.
So,
If we don't have approval by then, it won't be in the September scoop. Therefore, communication to the community will be
I'll call you back.
happen in that way.
could we, as far as the board's concerned, could you guys approve this pending approval of their social distancing guidelines? Could you, so that we could put them in the scoop and start planning going forward? However,
I move that we approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay.
With that strict proviso.
Yes.
okay. And
We were originally thinking we would not be able to do this. And in meeting with the group and in actually Wayne Bernard did contact us and say, figure out how to do this, because he was supportive of it. So that's what the group has been working toward. A second component, and we'll get with Mitch, we'll put all this in writing. Again, our goal is to raise money. You know, let's be realistic. What we're trying to do here is to raise money for research. One other thing that we're looking at is, you know, the yellow tape, the caution tape that they have. They also provide that in pink, which is the color. And what we're looking to do is to, with the board's approval, to be able to sell a 3-foot section of tape for a couple bucks and allow people to tie a pink ribbon around their tree for the month of October, because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so that's something very different and very unusual, to put something of that nature on personal resident or community property. But kind of what we were talking about is, how do we bring the community together? Lifestyle, we just haven't had anything going on. But this might be a way that people can kind of come together in a social distance way, also do ribbons, and show a way in which we can all as a community support something of this nature. But again, we understand that that requires your approval to let us tie a pink ribbon on the tree in my front yard, or anyone who would choose to.
Would it work if it was tied on the mailboxes?
Post. Yeah, it could be the mailbox post, whatever you all deem appropriate. We're open to. We're just kind of thinking, driving down the street, you could see the number of people as a community that are supporting this cause, wherever that pink ribbon might be tied. Our hope is that we'd be able to tie the pink ribbon on some of the trees within the community, so that it really looks like a community support of the cause. And like I said, kind of a way for people to come together on something.
Sherry, I have a couple of questions about it. Well, not questions, concerns.
Okay.
We've already in the last couple of weeks had problems with people flying political flags and sticking political flags in their windows, and it certainly will be worse by October 3rd than it is now. Okay. Clearly, there's no correlation between politics and breast cancer, except that we're looking to set a precedent for displaying things in the community. I would think, if the rest of my board members think the same way, I don't know, we'll find out. I would think this would be acceptable to me if it was highly controlled. Number one, it would have to be billed as approved by the board of directors, so it can't be an individual thing, okay? And there would have to be a strict takedown time. You know, I mean, if you have the ribbons and the walk is going to be on the 3rd, then the ribbons can be up on the 3rd, but they can't be up on the 4th. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if that puts a damper on what you might do. It seems to me that if you have the ribbon and you're displaying it on the day of the walk, that should be enough. But the rest of your group may not think that way. And that's certainly, I'm certainly not presenting that as a have to be. I'm only one vote. I just want to be real careful that we're not setting a precedent for individual action on topics that we don't allow now.
I absolutely understand that concern because, yeah, it can get off into a different hemisphere. You know, our thought was if we had the pink ribbon and we'd sell a piece of ribbon for $2, first of all, that makes money for breast cancer research. And second of all, that's the only approved, if you will, vehicle. So I can't go make my own pink ribbon and put it out there. It has to be the one that that we would provide. October, you know, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I understand the possibility of being limited in doing something like this. You know, our hope is that we could have it, you know, for a longer period of time. But again, all of that is up to, you know, what you all as a board have to deal with concerning our event and anybody else for that matter.
Yeah.
Another
Well,
thought,
I mean, you know, I'm not saying it's got to be just the way I said it. That's just an observation. I'll leave it to everybody else to determine what they think about it. It's just a concern of mine. I don't want to start down that slippery slope.
I would tend to support it for a 2-week period, 1 week either side of the event, and on private properties only. I would not want to see any on community trees. The rationale behind that being is the takedown. You know, it's easy to get someone to take it off their own tree, but if they're plastered all over the community trees and whatever, it's going to finish up on the hands of the HOA to remediate that, and I don't think that that's appropriate. So I would be in favor of it only on private property trees. So everybody has a tree in their front yard, they can put one on it, but that's extensive. That's what I would support.
That's not unreasonable.
we have a very committed group, you know, looking and planning at these. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our group members have personally had breast cancer or someone very close in their family. So they're very committed, taking up, putting it down, you know, things like that. They're going to be there because this is a passionate group. I can guarantee you we will not drop the ball on anything that is our responsibility as a group to manage this. Last year, the American Cancer Society provided signs for us that on walk day we could put out, you know, in the area. So if at this point we say, okay, as long as we can socially distance the walk on October 3rd, that's something we can get in the newsletter, and then we can continue in the next week or so with additional details based on the board approval.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm just concerned about the consistency of where the ribbons would be placed, Sherry. So one's up high, depending on how tall you are, and one's down here, and one's on there. So I really don't want it to be all scattered and messy. I want a consistency of where it's going to be, how high it's going to be, so it doesn't look like a craziness. That's all.
And we can kind of go through the process of saying how many feet above. I have a leaf tree in my yard. Some people have palm trees in their yard, you know, so we're going to have to figure out kind of what's the appropriate height based on the different types of trees that we have.
Right.
All right, looks like we have one more question from Joe, whoever Joe is. If it's Joe Leahy or whoever, I don't know.
There we go. Joe? Should be unmuted now.
You have to unmute yourself, Joe. Oh, he seems to have disappeared. He's not coming on the screen either, so
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's about it then. As this could be my last board meeting pending the outcome of next week's election, I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone for their support over the last 5.5 years. It's been a pleasure to serve. I do hope that I will be awarded the benefit of your trust to serve another term. Thank you, everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I so move.
Ron, do we need to tell Sherry something before we, I mean, she's kind of, she
I
kind of
think
needs some guidance
I
from
think
us.
she said it herself, that they have approval to put it in the scoop and they'll come forward with their social distancing guidelines when they have them ready.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is so adjourned. Thank you, everyone.